The KDPI was established in 1945, and the Democratic Youth Union of the KDPI was also contemporary to the establishment of the main party at the same period. However, the purpose and aim of this organization in the decade following the Iranian 1979 Iranian revolution has changed, where safeguarding underage boys and girls joining the Kurdish movement became the main priority of this youth union, where they received, in addition to self-defense skill, other educations, ideological education, education in the Kurdish language, and so on, and even in some cases, education and art, if possible. So these continued until this individual reached the age of maturity, which is 17, 18 indeed, yeah. So regardless of the political organization concerned here, the Kurdish movement of all parts of Kurdistan have traditionally been quite self-sufficient in many regards in terms of, education, art, healthcare, and so on. So it has also meant that many of the members of this political party, including those in the youth union, were in some time joined different academies. For example, while someone is a Peshmerga armed, taking part in different activities, there are also school teachers, nurses, and so on. So this education takes place, for example, in the case of KDPI in the Ferga, which is the military and educational academy. So it gives them an additional, of course, skill, as I mentioned. Indeed, the absence of an independent Kurdish state, nation state, and within an environment where Kurds in Iran are not even allowed to practice their culture and language, the armed struggle has established a free space for Kurdish culture, art, and language to flourish. This has also explained why the best well-known Kurdish musicians and artists like Marzieh Fariqi, Nasser Razazi, Najmuddin Gholami, and so many others are the productions of the armed struggle in Rojhelat. So almost every Peshmerga, male and female, in addition to their military role, is either as I said, school teacher, nurse, artist, and so on. And the same actually applies to those young individual in the, for example, youth union of the political party. So they will go through the same path and pattern. So I think it's a personal belief that the photographer K1 Fatihi and myself share that everyone deserves to have their voice heard, particularly those with a pioneering role and from the most marginalized section of our society. So Kurdish women have historically shaped Kurdish history, politics, and culture profoundly. Following the 1979 Iranian Revolution, Kurdish women participation in the political and art struggle in Kurdistan, in the Iranian Kurdistan, Rojhelat, has really had an upward trajectory. The women from the same nation also later, we can see, became the founder of the Kurdish catchphrase Jiyan Azadi, women, life, freedom, which was chanted during Iran's especially recent uprising in 2022, following the statement of Jina Amini, a Kurdish girl, on September 16, 2022. So it is actually shows that it has a historical role, and it also shows that when we started to study the Kurdish women Peshmerga fighters in Rojhelat, we realized actually they are from different front, are erased from the history. Their struggle are not heard. Their contribution to equality, democracy, and so on is not heard. Therefore, as I said, K1 and I decided that maybe one of the best way to start with is to have create a photo exhibition focused on Kurdish female fighter from Rojhelat, and gratefully the Institute of Arab and Islamic Studies agreed to fund and facilitate this project. The title of the exhibition, as you know, is Visualizing Resistance. So Visualizing Resistance celebrates Kurdish women's strength and resilience, and it is an investigation of why Kurdistan, despite such a tough and so many challenges from different fronts, has unified behind the catchphrase Jiyan Azadi, women like freedom. And this exhibition advocates for inclusion, equality, and coexistence, including other essential values. So the Kurdish women's struggle, unlike the feminist struggle of the global, especially North, it is our women with feminism of women with a nation state. It is quite different because it follows and applies a intersectional approach, and somehow this makes the Kurdish women movement, the women in the armed struggle, women participation from like as a subaltern national group, make this movement quite unique. So and our hope is that actually that this exhibition and related conversation to this exhibition allow us to learn about the wider Middle East, the struggle of women and other subaltern national and religious minority communities across the region, and the challenges Kurdish women face through studying Kurdistan, and specifically the Kurdish feminist movement, which I believe until now remain quite, especially the part of Rojhelat, quite understudied. I think it's a general understanding that probably among our audience as well, we realize that the Kurdish women in the movement, Kurdish women in the armed struggle, it is quite contemporary. I don't know, maybe decades ago, and even earlier. However, looking through the exhibition, you realize that this movement and the chat phrase Jiyan Azadi is actually it's not just a chat phrase, it is a philosophical worldview to every society that promotes that no society will be free unless the women of the society have full right and full access to right from different perspectives. So it just shows that the Jiyan Azadi, especially when you look at the number of women joining the Kurdish movement for almost, like when I say the Kurdish movement, the armed struggle, 1979 in hundreds, okay, and this trajectory just keep going on and on, where women in every political parties of Rojhelat actually playing a very important role. So, for example, as I said, following the 1979 revolution, hundreds of women joined including others, the Komala party. If you look at the Kurdish movement in Bakur, or the Turkish part of Kurdistan, you see more than half of the PKK guerrilla fighter are actually women, and more interestingly, those who defeated ISIS, the Islamic State, our time's darkest and most brutal Islamic terrorist organization, were Kurdish women. So in this regard, Kurdish women, you see the YPG, and they are still on the front line because we see a new wave of brutality coming from different implemented by different state occupying Kurdistan, including Turkey. So you see the women are very important element, especially when it comes to the self-defense. But we see also Kurdish women from Rojhelat, like from the PAK, Freedom Party of Kurdistan, also involved and participated actively in defeating Daesh in Basra, which is like a province area near Mosul. So we see the role is not just limited to a certain period, it's just going on and on, showing that it is more than something just coming up and settled, but it's something actually became very philosophical for the Kurd, especially in the region. I mean, there are so many disputes about the origin of the term Peshmerga. Some related to the early 20th century with the establishment of Sheikh Mahmoud Barzanji, the king of Kurdistan. But there are some indication, evidence showing that actually the term Peshmerga was intensively used by, leaders, participants of the Kurdish movement during the 1945 Kurdish Republic Center in the city of Mahabad. The term Peshmerga literally means that those who face death or those that are ready to die. So being a Peshmerga means being selfless, literally. Your struggle and suffering are not just about yourself if you survive, okay? But a whole nation will benefit from the fuse, struggle, suffering, and resilience. So it is about, as I said, selflessness of those who are ready to die for the benefit of the nation, the liberation of the nation, which is the Kurdish nation. Well, I believe that always prior knowledge helps people to understand the context they are dealing with, especially with this exhibition of visualization and so on. So any encounter with prior knowledge will be quite useful. However, during the preparation and creating the exhibition, both K1 and myself were quite cautious about we will have a wider audience with different background, especially when it comes to their understanding of Kurdish female fighter in Rojhelat. So how we can, in a way, give as much as possible content without become a massive issue for people to understand. So we have with this one, and we just practiced this approach, and that's why we hope actually that this information, this exhibition, is accessible for people to understand what it's all about, what these people stand for, why they are leading the movement. I know it is not easy, but it is a very complicated picture we have provided, but at the same time aware of that is required to soften things, make the more approachable for people. So logically, the whole purpose of the exhibition is to introduce a complicated topic to a wider audience through visualization, and we hear that on the other hand that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we hope that this will reach the audience without it cost them a lot of trouble in terms of understanding the context. I don't think it has been an easy journey, even with the most radical, open-minded, at least ideologically, section of the Kurdish movement that always have been struggle in addition to social structure that is beyond the Kurdish movement itself, which is including patriarchal system. But within the Kurdish movement, when you read the biographies and statement of Kurdish women in the movement until recently, you see a lot of challenges they have faced. But at the other side, I would say that the Kurdish movement, due to its belief in equality, secularism, and intersectional effort to change, has provided a safe platform for Kurdish women to be visible, to voice, to be heard in the case following, especially the 1979 Iranian Revolution. As I said, it's not an easy journey, especially if you are a woman and operating in a very violent, really, region like the Middle East, conservative forces, patriarchal, social and family structure. It makes it really difficult, but we see a lot of progress, which can be really promising from the prospect of women's achievement within the movement. from the institutional, intellectual level, I think that yes, we have been able to produce knowledge. We have been free to provide the perspective which doesn't the nation state occupying Kurdistan doesn't make the backward conservative forces in the region. So we do research without that much hesitation, but we have also wider global society, the sphere outside this intellectual safe environment, which honestly, especially in the moment of crisis, in the moment of high point for Kurds, is a lot of Kurdophobia, which doesn't allow. They try to erase Kurdish voices, especially Kurdish women voices. So you see a lot of challenge outside there, especially coming from the people belong to the nation state occupying Kurdistan, and this make the struggle even more difficult, especially when you look at that. You hope you have lived and come to a free country, but you see these forces that try to exclude and erase your voices are still here. However, they are just like actually using these democratic, environment to suffocate like Kurdish voice. So in this regard, for example, if you look at in the Kurdish case in Iran, okay, with due respect for the struggle of women in Iran, their suffering, their courage to challenge the role of the Iranian Islamic regime, when it comes to international recognition, all award always you see actually almost is a role that goes to women of the nation state. So it adds further to the exclusion of the Kurdish women, the exclusion of Baluchi women, the exclusion of Arab women from the Al-Ahwaz, Khuzestan region. And it's just like a massive global structural problem, because always, even outside the country, within the opposition, still this global focus is on the people of the nation state, not those that have already suffered from exclusion, subaltern group. So it is what we see, and it's quite disappointing. It is quite discouraging, because the struggle, the sacrifice of these women that have been in the front line, that they have been given their life, that because of the tough situation, have left their homeland, their family, and ended in the mountain of Kurdistan to fight for their struggle, their right, their personal, individual, and national right. So you see the picture is quite mixed and complicated. I think the price of resistance is quite high. And of course, the term resistance and resilience is quite, relative, and it varies from society to society. But from my understanding point of view, Kurdish female Peshmerga and guerrilla and their resistance has really come with a lot of sacrifice, selflessness. But also, you see, they believe in, as I said, a intersectional form of freedom that include not just, let's say, the national aspect, but creating a better future, even, let's say, and hope that Kurdistan is a liberated, independent country. These Kurdish women, for them, it's not enough that focusing on just the language and cultural aspect, but the gender aspect, So this movement is quite diverse in terms of its target. So, and this question actually, it reminds me that of K1 Fatah's quote when he says that I often wondered about the meaning of freedom for those willing to embrace the challenges and hardship that come with it. Okay, because he has been by himself on the front line, taking the photography, seeing from very close the living environment, the security environment. These Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, girls, enduring these difficulties. So for him, it's really a massive question. What does it mean to be a free person, and how much people are ready to go for this freedom? So freedom is really a very precious thing that people are, especially from the Kurdish point of view, to give life for. Our hope is that with exhibition, with academic, with other activities that brings to the light the struggle, the vision, the suffering of Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, the guerrilla from all parts of Kurdistan will, bring more clarity about why people are ready, okay, and why it is important they should be heard and they should be included. It is really very basic demand, expectation we had with this exhibition, but I think when it comes to the achievement, it is something huge.